Welcome to the Dance Reel podcast. I'm Kate Histon. Before we dive into this episode, I would love a favour from you. To help us bring some wonderful guests to our show and grow, please subscribe or follow this channel, like, comment, and share with a friend. That would be a great help. Thank you so much. Today's guest is Marco Bjurström, a Finnish dance icon whose career spans more than 4 decades across dance, performance, television, theatre and education. From founding Step Up Company and then Step Up School to hosting Finland's most watched TV shows to directing award-winning musicals and leading international dance organisations. Marco's leadership in the arts is both visionary and deeply human. I wanted to speak with him because his path reflects rare versatility, humility, and a lifelong commitment to elevating people through dance and storytelling. I met Marco judging a dance competition in Norway and noticed straight away these qualities about him. This episode was sponsored by Master Dancer Mindset. Know yourself, be yourself, and express yourself on and off the stage. Welcome to my podcast. I am very grateful to interview you and talk all about dance.
Hi, Kate. It's so great to be here. It's wonderful. And let's see what happens.
I met you in Norway and was very taken by your wonderful heart and your knowledge in the industry in judging. And then after talking to you, realized you've just had this incredible career. So definitely wanted to have you on my podcast. And I know the audience will learn a lot from you today.
Thank you. And thank you for inviting me. And it was so great to meet you. And the first time we had an Australian judge, and then she happens to be so nice and so knowledgeable. So it was wonderful. So it's great to be here. And I hope I can do my best and give something for the listeners to think about.
You absolutely will. You've got so many pearls of wisdom. But first of all, before we get to that, I really want the audience to know about your story and how you started dance, the very beginning of Marco.
We go a long way back, you know. Yeah, my name is Marco Bjurström. I'm from Finland, and I started dancing officially when I was 12 years old. But before that, I already, for some reason, I don't know why, but coming from school, being alone at home with a friend, we started dancing and singing. And my mother had studied at the Finnish National Opera Ballet School when she was young. I was, of course, not there yet then, but somehow the dancing was in the family. But she never talked about it, and we never danced together at home. But then it was 1978. Can you imagine? 1978, when in Finland I for the first time heard of John Travolta and Saturday Night Fever. And in Helsinki, we had this really cool dance school. It was not a jazz school, no ballet school. It was a dance school for kind of fashion, those dances that everybody wants to do, commercial dance school before there was any.
Yeah.
And the lady who had that school, she was called Aira Samulin, and she passed away 2 years ago, aged 96.
Oh.
She was my first teacher, and when I heard about John Travolta, and then I saw her in the newspaper, it was told that she has a dance school and you can learn night fever dances there. There I went. And that's how everything started. So I'm an old-fashioned, old-school disco boy. And then after the disco, everything else then followed.
Oh, beautiful.
Then after a couple of years, I wanted to do something more. I went to jazz classes, and then I came back to her school, and then suddenly she then asked me to start as a performer, as a dancer. I was 16 years old, and it was a heaven for me. Being 16 in Helsinki, Finland, and suddenly you can earn some money, but the most important thing is that you get to dance for the public and to dance on stage and be professional. Although, of course, a guy that young can't be called professional, but anyway. And that's how it started. And then the following year, I already started to teach as well. And then, so now I've been doing it for over 40 years.
Wow. And you have a well-renowned company, studio.
Yeah, yes. Then when it was 1982, I started my career as a dancer,
Yeah.
and the following year as a teacher. And then 1987, because 80s, I don't know if people can remember that 80s was crazy time because there was loads of money because every company was growing, and in Finland economy was exploding, and everybody thought that money would just keep on pouring in. And
Yeah.
that's why companies organized really, really big parties, company parties for themselves or
Yeah.
for their customers. And that's how we did gigs every week, loads of them. And then we felt that, okay, we are so cool and we want to do more. And our boss, this Aira lady, and her husband, who was the technician who had a really big lighting and sound company in Finland,
Yeah.
they concentrated more on the really big parties. And then we said to her that we would like to do the smaller ones as well, but we just want to dance. And that's why then she said to us, okay, start your own business. And that's how Step Up was born in 1987.
Wow.
And I was 21 years old, and suddenly the world was open in front of us. And we were three who started the company, but from the beginning, we were maybe 40 people working there, but three of us started, we were the entrepreneurs. But that was 1987. And at the same time, I was teaching in a couple of schools, and because Ida still had her school, we decided that okay, we concentrate on show business, on doing modeling and stuff like that. And then when she decides to close her school, then we can open our own one. And Step Up School was born 10 years after 1997. But then we were already an established company, and I had been doing a lot of different kinds of jobs in the business.
That's amazing. And what a time, the disco.
Yeah, it was so different. Yeah, disco. And you can imagine in the 80s, MTV was the thing.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson, Madonna, and all the music videos. And that was the first time small Finland, far from everything,
Yeah.
we suddenly get the same material at the same time as they got in US or UK. So suddenly we were part of the big world because before we had always been 2, 3 years kind of late.
Yeah. Wow. I actually think nothing beats 80s music, 80s and 90s. I love it personally.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's wonderful, and it was yeah, it's everything. And of course, for me being young at that time, that will forever be the music of my heart in some way.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then at the same time, when we started to perform a lot, we did huge shows in Finland. And although we had our own company already, but we worked for her still, you can imagine that we were like 18, 19, 20, 21 years old. And we got to perform as dancers, for example, in the big ice arena. So that
Yeah.
could be 7 or 8,000 people in the audience, youngsters, and it was just dancers on the stage. There were
Yeah.
no artists, there were no big bands. It was us, and we were doing fashion shows and dancing, and so we got used to the being on stage and being stars ourselves, stars. But anyway,
Yeah.
to perform, and that gave us incredible amount of self-esteem, so that we believed in ourselves that although we are young and although we are just dancers, we still are entertainers and we can do whatever we want to. And
Yeah.
that helped so much young people like us to create then what we did.
It would have been iconic. What moments in your youth helped shape your understanding of artistry and discipline?
The basic thing in Aira's school was that everybody can dance, everybody can learn to dance. And whenever a person dances, he or she is always more beautiful than if she doesn't dance. And
Oh,
that philosophy, that's how I learned that dance is for everyone. And then when I started teaching so young, I quite fast understood that the main thing as a teacher is not the fact that I need to be so especially good, or it's just about steps, movements. It's more about what kind of atmosphere I create. Because everybody in this world, you and me and everybody else, everyone can dance. Everybody, we have a lot of different rhythms inside us, but how to get them out? How to get people not to be afraid, not to be afraid that somebody laughs at you, or not to be afraid that doing some mistakes. And that's something that she taught me, that everybody can dance, just let them, just give them the opportunity, just create that safe space. We didn't talk about safe spaces at that time, but that was actually the thing that we did,
Yeah.
so that everybody can do and try. And of course, when you do mistakes, that's how you learn.
Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful. And speaking of creating the atmosphere, you absolutely do. Because the first time I met you, you're so warm, and the whole time, like really a magnetic, beautiful person. Your students are very lucky to have you. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. But that's also something that you learn by the years. So many things in life happen. I never planned to be a dancer. I never planned to be an artist. I was going to go to a school of economics and do that usual stuff, as you know.
Yeah.
But then somehow the dancing just sucked me in, and I just loved it. And then when I went to the School of Economics, I studied there for maybe 1.5 years. And then I felt that no, this is not my place. This is not, these are the things that I can buy from somebody else. Somebody else can do this stuff for us. I need to be doing dancing. And then when I turned 18, the second most important teacher was Aira's son, Jari, and then suddenly his life changed. I was 18 and his life changed so that he didn't have the possibility to teach that much anymore. And he had started an incredible thing that he traveled around Finland, the whole of Finland, north, east, west, everywhere. And he gave dance classes, disco and that kind of fashion dances at that time to students, to people, to youngsters who never got to big cities.
Mhm.
And then he asked me that, can I continue? Because when I'm 18, I have a driver's license and I can start driving around Finland.
Yeah.
And that is maybe the thing that mostly taught me or changed me to be that teacher as I'm still am today.
Yeah.
Because going every day to a new town or village, meet maybe 20 or 200 new people and always start from scratch. There were people who haven't danced ever before, or maybe one or two of them had. So it was always the absolute beginners classes.
Yeah.
And driving around Finland for a couple of years, doing that beside all the performing and teaching the better dancers in Helsinki, that taught me what is valuable and how
Yeah.
great it is to open doors for those who have never been in that room of dancing. Yeah. But it was great.
Mm. And how did you first recognize your capacity to teach and guide others? And how did that evolve into the professional path and then into judging?
Mm. From all my life, from a small boy, I can remember my mother and father. They separated when I was 6, and it was never a disaster for me. It was I understood why they just didn't fit together. But somehow I have always felt that I am somehow special. Uh, Sounds maybe a little bit funny, but somehow special in that sense that I come from a bilingual family, so we spoke Swedish and Finnish at home,
Yeah.
but I went to Finnish school. So in that sense, I was a little bit different from the others. And then I never liked playing soccer or football or ice hockey. I always loved the individual sports. And then when the dancing came along, it could be a disaster for a small teenager boy because everybody didn't feel that it's a cool thing. But I
Mhm.
didn't care. So I had always been a guy with my own mind and believing in my own path. And when I was small, I must have been also a little bit annoying because I I always had my opinions and I was never ashamed of telling what I thought. So I had always been the kind of bossy person. I love to organize parties. I love to organize things at school. I love to organize. I love to be the one who takes things forward. So in that sense, because that's what
Yeah.
teachers do. Yeah,
Yeah.
we are taking care of others. So that has always been a part of me. So then when I went to the dance school and after a couple of years, when they asked me that, would you be interested in teaching? I was like, yes, absolutely. Here I am.
Yeah.
And then Jari, my teacher, we had teachers seminar. It was 2 weekends. It was nothing official, but it was really good. And he talked about really important things about when you are a teacher in front of the students, you must always remember that they need all the encouragement that you can give them because some of them are afraid of doing mistakes and stuff like that. And then also you are in the position of power. And always you must remember that the responsibility must be bigger than your power.
Mm.
To kind of to be responsible of taking care of things and people instead of just enjoying that, hey, I'm a teacher, I'm here above the others. I'm actually doing a serving job, not being above. And then when I started my first classes, I loved it at once, but it didn't go as I thought. On the third time, I understood this thing of creating the atmosphere. Instead of starting from just teaching the steps, I got them to laugh and yeah, some kind of stand-up comedy. And
Yeah.
then through that, when they laughed with me, they laughed at me and they laughed with me, then I was not so frightening anymore because I'm tall. I'm almost 2 meters tall.
You are
And
tall.
yeah, and we were standing on the podium. So it
Mm.
meant that I was really there above.
Yeah.
So, but then when I learned this, that's how we can do this together, then I knew that this is my home. And
Mm.
actually, in 1987, it was, yeah, it's so long ago. I went to Theatre Academy in Finland to study for a while, but it was too contemporary, too modern. And they told me that, no, that's not the thing that you should be doing, what I was doing, that you should start this. And I said, no, I want to do this commercial stuff. I want to do jazz. I want to do Broadway. And you are not the people who can tell me what to do. You should be the people who teach me to learn new things.
Yeah.
And then at the same year, I also had a really bad knee injury. We had a really, really cold winter in Finland. And then I was doing a TV commercial and then coming down from a jump, it's just kind of everything went off in my left knee and I got
Oh,
operated. And that also, then I understood that my dancing days as a professional dancer, they are soon over because this knee will never be the same again. But I was not a sad boy. I was kind of happy. Okay. But then I get to teach, do choreography and direct and maybe someday also judge.
yeah.
And that's how it went. So if there's happened something bad luck, but for me, the bad luck was good luck and it
Yeah.
kind of showed me the way. And so I've been always really happy to teach. And then it was really natural to
Yeah.
be choreographer and to be a dance judge as well.
I love listening to you speak. And what I notice is that you've always had this belief in yourself, would you say,
Yeah.
from a little boy?
Yeah.
Do do you think that was innate or what was it from your parents? Like, where did you get that just believing and then being able to speak up?
Yeah, it must be from many sources. Of course, my parents, my home, and the
Mm.
family where I grew in, because it was the bilingual family. And if a small person learns two languages, it must somehow widen kind of your horizons so that you understand that there are two ways of saying this thing. At least it made me more, I was not so afraid of the world around me.
Yeah.
And then my parents always let me do what I wanted. And then there's also bad luck or not so happy things behind because then when mother and father separated, my mother started to have a little bit problems later with alcohol and with stuff like that.
Mm.
And then she was not maybe, if you think of the scale, it was what is a good mother, what is not so good mother.
Yeah.
She was not, somebody else could say that she was a bad mother, but for me, she was perfect. But because she didn't have the capacity to take care of everything. So I learned as a very young one to take care of my little brother and of myself. And then for me, it gave a lot of strength. I didn't lose anything. I just gained more and more. And I learned how to cope with different situations. So that's also one reason. And then I had wonderful schools. With the schools I went to, wonderful teachers, and it was a good time also. The 70s and early 80s in Finland, it was safe and nice. So it's many things.
One of your strengths, which I've observed, is your leadership qualities. When we were in Norway, I noticed how you gave feedback. It was received so well. It was said in a way that was really constructive and helpful and caring. And I sat there fascinated and watched. No, I love analyzing because, the amount of competitions I know for me, I've judged at having that feedback with organizers and judges is such a special part that sometimes if people are too scared to ask for feedback, they just don't want to go there. And so I just sat back and watched this lovely relationship, your leadership skills and being able to give feedback in a way that makes people feel safe and really wanting to learn and grow. How do you apply that in your school? Because obviously, have you noticed that's a strength of yours?
In a way, and I have also kind of been learning. I teach a lot of kids, teenagers, and adults. And in 80s, if you remember a thing called aerobics,
Yeah.
and aerobics came with a rush at the same time when I started teaching. And this feels so funny. And when I listen to myself, my life has been quite crazy actually. But this Ira lady, our teacher, her sister lived in US, and that's why she was the one who always brought the new steps and the new moves and new things to visit her sister, and also went to New York. Broadway Dance Center already existed then with Frank Hatchett was the boss there. She took private classes from him, and then she brought us the new stuff. 1 year she came. Now there's a new thing called aerobics. And she also wanted to start aerobics in Finland. And then, because all the ladies wanted to go to the aerobics classes, then also I ended up teaching them. I was much younger than the ladies. And that's how being 17, 17, started to teach adults. And that led to the next thing that
Yeah.
one day, one lady called Ritva Enakoski came to my class,
Yeah.
and she was a journalist, and she was at the same time studying at the university body language and communication.
Yeah.
And then she had come to my aerobics and my disco and my feel good classes. I had started feel good classes because I wanted to help people to feel good, to
Yeah.
relax and whatever. And then she started to talk with me that how come you are talking about the same things or you're teaching the same things as she is studying at the same time at the university? What is happening here? And
Yeah.
then we started to co-op. We started to work together. And in 1990, we had our first course for 1 weekend for 24 business ladies. And after that weekend, we had new professions because they all wanted us to their companies. And since then, we started to go around Finland, a little bit around Northern Europe, to talk about communication and leadership and
Wow.
how you feel in your body. I was 24.
That's awesome.
I just had my gut
Oh,
feeling. I just had those things that I have learned from my dance teachers or from my yoga teachers or from my theater teachers. But then I combined those things with Ritva's, what she had learned at university. And suddenly we were there. And at the same time, I, of course, was learning. And I understood it's more important how you say something. It's more important how you do something, not only what you do. And that's what I have tried to be better at in giving feedback, for example, because when I was young, I was not so good because I was so strong. I had strong feelings and strong opinions. I knew how things were, and I said it like that. And that often made people to go back and no, 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 I don't want to listen. It feels too kind of aggressive.
yeah.
And bit by bit, I tried to change the way I talk. And every now and then it still happens. I notice, oh, now the old Marco is here. How can I say this so that the other one can understand what I mean, but
Yeah.
still not being too pushy? But it's a fine, fine line. And every now and then it goes
So I
over
think
the
you're
line.
passionate. You come across as passionate and you really think about what you're saying and what you're analyzing. And
Mm.
that's key, especially in the judging work, right? And when that is something that we have to do is to be able to sit back, look, analyze.
Yeah, and about judging, yeah, maybe you go to that thing next. But if you are a judge, if somebody asks and if you say that okay, I can be an adjudicator, then you at the same time you must be honest to yourself and understand that it's not a place where your job is being nice to everyone. It's not being rude or anything, but my job is to analyze what I see and try to do my best to place these things in order, place those pieces, place those dancers in order. And that means that I must understand that I must have the capability and the strength to do it.
Mhm.
During these years, I've been judging in IDEO now for over 30 years. I
Wow.
have met a lot of fellow judges whose problem is that they try to be nice to everyone. And when you are nice to everyone, of course, you need to be nice. But if you try to kind of please, that's the right word. If you try to please everyone, you please no one,
Yeah.
and it ends up not putting them in order. And that's why the dancers are there. That's why they compete, and that's why the judges come. And that needs that you understand what your job is and needs a lot of thinking. It's thinking and thinking and thinking. It's not gut feeling. It's not like I feel like I love that. I don't like that. That's not judging. I
Wow.
must think how the technique, how the composition, everything goes.
That's beautiful. And what made you get into judging? So you've been an IDEO judge for 30 years now. That's incredible. Congratulations, a huge achievement.
Actually, actually, I've been an IDEO judge for 37 years, but it's crazy. It's so crazy. In the 80s, in the magical 80s, everything happened there. IDEO started in 1981. Finland was not part of the first. We were five nations, and my teacher, not Aira, but her son, Jari, he was invited to Italy to an IDEO competition to check it out if Finland would maybe join. In
Yeah.
Finland, we didn't have any organizations or anything at that time. It was him. He went there and he danced something there as well. And then he came back and yeah, it's a nice organization. They have wonderful. They're doing show dance. Can you believe they're doing
Yeah.
show dance finally somewhere? And that's how Finland got involved. And I went to my first and only IDEO competition in 1986 summer. We did an African dance piece. We never got to the next round with my partner. But anyway, I loved it. And then at the same time was the era when my teacher, his life changed. So then he also told me, can you go to IDEO instead of him to be the representative from Finland and take dancers there? And then IDEO suddenly asked me 1988, it was in France, I think it was Lyon, where we had a competition that who is the judge from Finland? It's Marco. And that's how it started, 1988. So
Wow.
most of the things that I have done, they have happened in a way by mistake. But then when I look at it now from this year, 2025, it looks like quite a straight line. Of
Yeah.
course, it went like that, but at that time it was not. So it was
Yeah.
just, I was really lucky to be in the right place at the right time and doing my job good enough to continue.
Oh, you're very humble. I think you do a wonderful job. Not good enough.
But we should be, and we should
Yeah.
stay humble because I've
Yeah.
done everything in the world, and I'm mostly humble to all those pupils, all those dancers, because they have made me. It's not me who have made me. All the people around me, they have made me, and that's why it's easy to be a beautiful thing. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean that I don't value myself. Of course, I value,
Yeah.
but you must always remember where it all started from.
You could totally be a motivational speaker as well, which you sort of already have.
Okay, yeah, that's what I've been doing for quite many years. Now I'm mostly retired, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's what Ritva and me did because then the whole business, the speaking business, because
Yeah.
we were giving workshops to help people, but suddenly in the world all the companies they just wanted these 45 minutes or 1 hour long speeches and I felt like well this is funny. I would like to spend 3 or 6 hours with these people so that I can teach them instead
Yeah.
of telling what I have done, but
Yeah.
that's the way world now goes and the
Mm.
TED talks are even shorter. So yeah,
Yes.
but that's what I've been doing, but mostly I always think that I'm a dance teacher and an atmosphere creator. So animator is maybe the right word, but atmosphere creator. So
I love that.
that's my job. And that's how then also all the TV stuff and theater stuff came along.
Yeah. And with your judging work, you've judged and taught in many countries. You're an international judge. You've observed cultural differences in how dancers express themselves and are trained. Can you share with us cultural appropriateness in dance and how we've evolved to today's standards? Mm.
Yeah, and this is a really important area because when I started, we did everything. There were no rules. When I was young, white people used to paint their faces black if they did some black music or black dances, and we didn't understand that there was anything wrong with that. And I'm so happy what has happened during the last years. We have learned more, and we have learned more to understand that I can't be representing all the cultures, all the people, all the religions, or I can be just me and myself. And whatever I do, I must respect the others. And that's something that it's really different at the moment. For example, if you think about only Europe, in Europe we are many countries, and the Nordic countries, mostly like Sweden, Norway, Finland, maybe Denmark, we are trying to take really good care of those things that we don't by mistake or on purpose insult anyone. We are not there to tell what the life of a brown or a black or a whatever person from other countries, what their lives like. So it's better to listen and not to try to think that you know more than you do. But there are a lot of countries still that don't understand. For example, in Finland, nobody can come to a dance competition anymore dressed as Native Americans if they don't have that culture in them. But still, in ideal competitions, we see those things. And that's what we have been trying now to get people to think about, to talk about, to change it. But it's a really, really slow change because those people who still do that kind of stuff that it's not allowed in my country, for example, they don't do it on purpose. They don't want to hurt anyone. They just don't understand. Because when I was small, of course, we were playing Indians and cowboys and whatever. And that was then. But word is changing. And that's why we need the constant discussion, and we need to be brave to go and say and to ask and try to explain why. So for example, IDEO should and it's going to be more and more multicultural. That means that there are more and more cultures and people from backgrounds that we know nothing about. So it's always better to ask questions inside of just telling how things are. And I'm happy that it's going to that direction.
Yeah.
But if you think of the last 10 years, it has changed a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And so as a judge, what would you give a warning for? And what's a warning? Just for people that don't know the IDEO system.
Yeah, the warning comes from the beautiful word is cultural appropriation.
Yeah.
So that's why I give a warning. It's something that you are not allowed to do it. One really, really good example that has happened a couple of times in the competitions, not only in IDEO, there are also some songs and some music that comes from that kind of background, and the song tells a story that if a person who listens to it and doesn't understand English, for example, don't know the things behind the song. One of these songs, Strange Fruit by Billie Holiday, for example.
Yeah.
And if you are a person who doesn't speak English, if you don't know any backgrounds, then you hear, wow, strange, that's a funny word. It kind of means funny or different or whatever. Fruit, apple or banana or whatever. And I have seen a dancer dancing on stage with an apple in her head, a white girl dancing to Strange Fruit. Of course, I had to give a warning. And then the choreographer came to ask, what was the reason for the warning? I said, you might not know, but it's a song about slaves, dead slaves hanging from trees. It's not a thing that a white girl with an apple can dance to. So now what I try to tell everyone, I try to get them to understand, please study, do your homework. It's not enough that the song sounds nice and it feels good. Please check what is behind, because there are a lot of really important songs that tell stories of the world that are important stories to tell, but maybe are not for a white small girl to dance or whoever. So it's really important. And this is getting more and more difficult. And then there are a lot of judges who don't speak English at all or who don't know that kind of music. And of course, then they are not doing mistake because they don't give a warning. Because how could they know? When you yourself know that when you are watching hundreds of pieces, you don't have time to go to Google to check what was this song all about.
Yeah.
So I beg and hope that the choreographers and teachers and their parents and the dancers do their job, because that's how they also learn important things of the world. because everything is not just apples and bananas.
Yeah, and isn't that about having that relationship with the artist that created the song as the performer and the choreographer? And speaking of that, on our judges' feedback evening, you gave some really poignant, beautiful information on artistry and embodying the piece of music for the dancer. I'd love you to talk freely about that because that was, yeah, that was really
Yeah,
important.
yeah. And especially in competitions, because the competitions easily get the kind of to be the main thing that how well you do there. And then you start to calculate too much that what moves, what dances, what pieces win or get on the podium. And then the biggest mistake is when the choreographer loses the dancer and starts to think more of the piece and forgets who it's done.
Mm,
So you should always, I think, that the making a new piece, especially to a competition where when a person or a couple of persons or a group of persons are on stage, everybody's watching them to place them in order. When you work at the theater, it's a different thing. You don't compete with other pieces. It's that piece that you are telling. But in the competitions, it's really kind of it's really black and white, and it's really somehow you are really vulnerable. And that's why the dancers should feel really comfortable and so that you get the feeling when watching them that those are the only dancers or that's the only dancer who can dance this piece. But if you get the feeling it's a factory made thing that every dancer could do, then where is the art? The art comes from, for me at least, it's an individual thing for that one or that group of seven dancers so that it's something special for them. And that's when creating a piece, I would love that choreographers create the pieces for those people who they have there in their hands.
yeah.
And then whatever happens, it can be a piece that can win a competition, but it can be a piece that don't. But still, the dancers can stand behind it, and it's our piece, it's our thing. But in competitions today, we see too many things done like mathematics. They are counted, you know. You must do this move, this trick, and that trick. And then if you don't do that one, you don't get to the next round or whatever. And and then you see that the dancer, the person inside the dancer is lost.
Mm,
They are just kind of doing something instead of living it. And I always, as you heard maybe, I always say that dancers, we must remember that we are actors. It's the same job as actor's job. There's no difference. An actor usually speaks, uses language, or does it mimically, no words, as dancers do. So it's acting, and acting is much more than doing movements or saying words one after one other. You must think what you are saying. You must understand where you are aiming to. What is the reason for this dialogue? But also, what is the reason for this movement? Why am I dancing this
mm,
thing? And what is the story I'm telling? The story doesn't have to be a naive story that somebody comes from somewhere and goes to a shop and then the car breaks and blah, blah, blah.
yeah.
It can be a theme, it can be a feeling. But if there's no reason for doing the movements, it's really boring.
Yeah, that's really beautiful and such valuable information for choreographers and dancers.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And then also there's this fashion thing because for some reason some choreographers who are now in this time exactly, they come up with ideas that are incredible and everybody feels that wow, how can anyone create it anything like that?
Yeah.
And then they start to call that choreographer, please come to our country, please come to our do the same thing for our dancers. And then you end up in the competition when you see the same piece many times
Yeah.
and the unique is not there anymore.
No.
And even worse thing is that somebody they videotape or they buy the videos from the competitions and then they see those pieces who won and then they are trying to do their version of those things. But
Mm,
that's never true because you must believe in yourself and someday your ideas, someday your way of doing and talking and saying and dancing is
yeah.
just there in the right place at the right time.
Yes, absolutely. It makes such a difference. I remember being a younger choreographer. I was more of a ballerina and had to really embody jazz more as a teacher so I could properly teach it. And I'd watch like video hits and everything. I remember just copying, but it wasn't until I just took time, put on some music I loved, and really played with it and got my body to move in different ways that I started to really embody my own inner jazz dancer and choreographer. And that was such a special process. And
Yeah.
as opposed to trying to copy and be like someone else. So,
Yeah, but and that's the way it must go, because that's how children learn. That's how we learn. We learn by copying, of course.
yeah,
But then, just as you told, you suddenly start to think that, okay, now I have something to say. Now I have something that I want to do. And copying is the best way to learn the first things and to, of course. And
yeah,
you, if you want to be a jazz dancer, of course we need to do our mathematics and we need to do our Luigi and we need to do our for Bob Fosse and
yeah,
stuff like that. It's good because that's how we start to understand what the whole discipline is all about.
yeah,
But then when it starts, I would encourage people to let it start to go to somewhere else. You never know where it goes to. And that's always good to remember. For example, Martha Graham, she was, as we know, the mother of modern dancing, but she started as a ballet dancer. And then when she started to be tired and not feeling that the ballet is her thing, then she had the need to do something else. She had the need to tell some other stories. And if an artist doesn't have a need to say something, why bother? You
Oh,
you
that's
must ha-
real.
you must have the need,
Yeah,
don't you?
yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. I think that can be the promo reel. Yeah, that's gorgeous. Yeah. And I want to talk a little bit before we finish up about your company, your dance school, Step Up.
Mhm.
You've got 2 locations, is that right?
Yep.
You've got 2.
At the moment, we have two big ones, and then we have one pop-up school. So we have altogether 11 studios in those two locations,
Wow.
and it became a big school. When I was young, dance schools were not that big, and it was really different in,
Yeah.
say, 70s, 1980s, even 1990s. We started with one studio, of course, with one room, and then people started to come, and we had a problem. Okay, we need to find new studios and new
Right.
places. And now we have about 50 teachers and
It's 50
about
teachers and how many
50,
students?
yeah, yeah, and about 3,000 coming every week.
Wow.
And we have dance classes and we have musical theater. Musical theater is kind of, that's my baby and I love it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's grown to be a quite big one.
An empire.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's wonderful. But we still try to keep all these ideas I have been talking about here. And of course, with a big company, a lot of people who work there, things are not so simple, but still we try to keep it so cozy and so that it feels like home and it's easy access. Of course, we have a lot of beginners classes and where people they come once a week, and
Yeah.
that's beautiful. But then we have also those who are professionals or going to be professionals, and they train almost every day.
Yeah.
And to manage this, it's a big job. Luckily, I'm not doing it anymore.
Yeah.
I'm mostly the grand old man, and I'm teaching my classes, and of course, then helping what if something happens. But we have a really good staff, wonderful people taking care of it. But
Yeah.
one thing that I can give as an advice, we keep parents out.
I was gonna ask you the parent
Yeah,
question.
yeah, we keep not out is wrong. A lot
Yeah.
of the parents they go to dance classes. They love dancing and they're wonderful
Yeah.
dancers, and that's a different thing. But when our I don't teach kids or youngsters anymore at all. But anyway, those who, for example, do choreographies for the competitions, the parents they don't have to do anything. That's the main thing. The
Yeah.
parents, of course, they if they are young ones they bring them to the school, and that's it, but they don't have to be selling any bakeries or organizing any parties to gather money or anything,
Yeah.
so that they get to the children when they come to our school they are there, they are taken care of. But that's also really important that all the kids they are on the same level, they are as important. Of course,
Good.
some of the dancers can be better technically or whatever, but they are not, so that because that mother she baked so good cakes that now we must put her daughter in the middle.
Yeah.
Because if you start to do something like that, then you end up with trouble. Because
Yes.
then the parents they start to compete together. Who is a better parent? And then they start to kind of be telling the teacher, where should my daughter or my son be dancing? And that's not the way it is. So that's what we try to be strict about, because
Yeah.
we have so many groups and we have so many formations and we have so many small groups. So it would be a disaster if
Mm,
the mothers and fathers started telling our teachers how this thing is done.
yeah. I do leadership coaching with dance studio owners, and that's for majority of the people I work with, that's their biggest issue is navigating the relationship with parents, especially in Australia now that child safety has become such a big thing. Parents are worrying a bit more, making sure their children, they're in a
Mm,
safe school. And so once that relationship's built, the initial onboarding, they can step back. And it's so
yeah.
important to have those boundaries in place so that there's no power dynamics and everyone can get to do the best job that they can. Teachers, studio owners, managers, administrators, and dancers can just dance. So yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that thing that you talked about is it's super important. The safe environment, and so that the parents can feel that they are taken good care of. And luckily, if we think again 40, 50, 60, 70 years goes back, oh my God, what
Mm.
has happened in dance schools, in
Mm.
ballet classes especially, you know the stories.
Yeah.
So luckily we live in a different time, but we
Yeah.
must always as dance school owners or teachers remember that some of the parents still remember those times.
Yes.
Maybe they have been those kids who
Yeah.
have been beaten or whatever. So
Yes.
that's why we need to be really open and all the time
Yeah.
tell them what is happening, why we are doing this, so
Yes.
that they don't start to be afraid that is
Yeah.
there something happening behind the closed doors.
Yes.
We have the windows open and they can see what is happening, but
Yeah.
yeah, but it's again really important to remember that to be open, the openness, communication, it helps so much.
Yeah.
Please communicate. Tell
Mm.
what you are thinking. Tell why you are doing this. Tell what is the reason for why we have these systems like this. But
Yeah.
if you don't tell, then the people start to talk among themselves and then they start to be afraid and communicate,
They
and
come to their own
communicate.
conclusions. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And that's horrible.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Marco, I have thoroughly enjoyed speaking with you today. You have given so much pearls of wisdom.
It's been so wonderful, and sorry that my English is like it is. Every now and then it goes somewhere, but I hope that you who watch and listen to us can somehow follow my thoughts, because nobody speaks Finnish. That's the reason. Nobody speaks Finnish, so we need to learn. If we go around the world, if we speak Finnish, we would kind of no, no, no. There would be no possibility to live. So we need to learn, and English is of course the first language. And then I want to tell say one more thing,
Yeah,
that I
please.
hope that dance teachers, especially, and dancers, but dance teachers understand that how wonderful job this is, because most of the teachers don't maybe understand that their job is being a stand-up comedian, being a motivational speaker, being of course, a choreographer, being an actor, actress.
Mhm.
It's many things at the same time. And
Yeah.
that's what happened to me. So I want to encourage dance teachers to also to find other ways of using their talent, because I ended up hosting many shows, first live shows like dance school, and that ended up me doing a lot of television work in Finland. I did the biggest shows for 10 years way back, and it was wonderful. There are much more good things inside you than you know yourself. And
Oh,
those are things that maybe might not be seen at once, but there they are. And I know what I'm talking about. I've been doing this for a long time.
yeah. Oh, thank you so much. That was beautiful.
Yeah, but life is beautiful, isn't it? Thank you, Kate. It was pleasure.